So in this instance, maybe you'd want the background to print out to stitch out on this one because it's got some nice color to it and gives a nice contrast. So if you were going to do the clipping mask though, do this. And what it does, it's not using one of the other ones now. By clicking on the solid square for the clipping mask, it's actually going to analyze this photo. Once again, you can see would have to do some fine tuning. So to add to the plus button, and I got to get physically closer to my screen, I can see this. Okay. And I'm just going to draw a line up to here, then over. And we'll go up. Let's see here. Then we're going to add in this area right here. Well, my hand is not very steady tonight with this mouse, that's for sure. And right here. Okay, now we'll update that preview and see what that mask looks like. Okay. I'm still looking for that place to toggle those off at as we move through the screens here. Okay. And if you do this add mask outline here, it just puts a line. This would be like a zigzag line all the way around the outside edge of it. As we can see here in this photo, check this out, everybody. Look at his skin tones here and here. So that tells me we have to add more colors than what are already in this. So let's go up to 15 on this one. Let's update the preview and see what happens. Oh, much better. He doesn't have green skin anymore. It's almost a good color match. Check here and here. Let's go up a couple more notches. Let's go up to 18 on this one. Update preview. And yeah, that added more detail, skin tones in his arms. As you can see a little, totally realistic. It looks really good to me right there. And I kind of like the outline. If I was going to print this whole thing, I would probably want the outside outline on because it actually acts as a frame, is how it looks to me. If we can turn it off, check it out. That's with, here it is, without the frame and with the frame. Okay. This time I'm going to leave that on. And I'm going to hit the finish button. And then there would be that stitch out for that. And that looks very realistic. If you can see on my screen, it's a really great realistic looking photo interpretation. Okay, one thing about it, if you're going to stitch out these photo stitch photograph conversions, you better make sure you really put maybe a double layer of stabilizer because all of these have a very high stitch out. This one here measures 6.5 by 9 inches and it's 77,000 stitches. So you want to make sure, I personally would use no-show mesh and possibly even 2 layers of it for a heavy stitch out like this. Okay. So let's do one more. I'm going to clear that one out. And we're going to go to something photograph we haven't used before. Let's see here. What does that look like? It's pretty. Castle. Here we go. Many of us at some point would probably have a photo like this in our collection, either of our own wedding or maybe one of our loved ones. And what a beautiful anniversary gift this would make if you stitched it out and either framed it or put it on a pillow, like a little cute little throw pillow. Anyway, you get the idea where I'm going with this. I'm going to hit next, fit to page, next. Oh boy, howdy, with the just the 10 colors, that looks fairly accurate, but we're going to go up. Let's go up to 15, see what that looks like. Update preview. And that looks pretty good, but this is kind of all muted out right in here. So let's go up a little higher. Update. That added some detail into the cake that was missing before. Let's go down 1 or 2 and update it. Detail is still there. I can see the wine glasses. So I'm going to leave that one there and click finish. But this time, we're going to do something else we haven't done before. And I would be happy with that because I know this would be a nice, smooth colored background. Once again, this is just a photo aberration of it appearing on a computer monitor. But what if, I think I would want to do a larger frame for this one. Let's do the 9.5 by 14 this time and click on OK. Let it do its thing. And then I'm going to rotate this one. So I'm going to go back to my home screen. And I'm going to rotate it to the right, which will be clockwise. And then I'm going to resize it, maintain aspect, and I'm also going to keep density and fill pattern. Then we go to number 2 right here, and I'm going to select the height. I'm going to select 13, 13.5, and hit preview. Might take a second for it to redraw everything. And there we go. Now that would make a nice size anniversary throw pillow for a nice couple that had gotten married. Lots of ways. You could put them on a tote bag if you want to, but something like this, I would probably actually put it in a photo frame. So let's see here. Let's make it, we're going to make it a different size yet. So an 8 by 10. Let's see how this, let's put the longest part at 10 inches and see what happens. So that would actually make it almost 6.5 by 10 inches. So if you're thinking of putting a photo frame, now we could change it, but it would totally change. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. But we could actually change it to more better fit that frame. But actually, we know this is 10 inches this way now. So what we could do, I'm going to hold down my control key, and I'm going to drag this down to 4. And what I meant by that, I lined it up with the 4 right up here. So for 8 inches, it would be, this would have to line up on the 4, as would this, and then it would be 8 by 10. Okay. Okay. So right there, you just resized it. You could stitch it out and then put it in an 8 by 10-inch photo frame if you wanted to for a nice gift. This is currently 74,155 stitches in an 8 by 10 area. So you can see the need for extra stabilizer. You might even have to go up to 3 layers on something like this because that is extremely dense stitching. Yes, I can do that, Cindy. So what it is to find, I had maneuvered out in Palette, I had maneuvered out of where all the photos were changed for this. So regardless of which computer you have, on Windows, what I did, I opened up File Explorer right down here at the bottom, and that brought this up. And where it was located on my computer, let me just go back to this PC. Okay. If you go to Documents, Palette 11, double click, and then under Sample. And then from there, Layout and Editing. And then there's a photo stitch folder right there. And that's where all of these photos, the beautiful beach chair, there's a bunch of photos in there, the Christmas cake. I will actually have to go into Palette for us to preview some of that. We'll just do that right now. But there's a lot of built-in photos that you are free to use for whatever purpose built into Palette. So if I go to Image, Photo Stitch, Color, and now it remembers the folder I last used, so it will always make it easier to find. So beach chair, and you get a preview right here. The bird, oh, that's cute. We saw the boy, the butterfly is really nice. Cake. And if you notice, next to each one of these are actually ready to stitch out embroidery files for all of those as well. So it gives you something to compare to if you're practicing with some of these files as far as the different settings. For instance, if I just click on this one, oh, it won't do that. I would have to go in over here to Home, Import, and from File, click on the folder over here. It'll pull this up, and then we're going to go up and maneuver to Documents right here, and then Palette 11 and Sample and Layout and Editing, Photo Stitch, and OK. Then we'll pull up all of those photo stitch outs, and boy howdy, I just realized I probably shouldn't have done that because those were big files. But there they are. There's all the previews of actual things that are ready to stitch out from the Photo Stitch sample library. Check it out. If I wanted to stitch one of these out, for instance, where's that little girl we did earlier? I just saw her as I was scrolling down. So there's her image all cropped out and everything like that. Lots of fun, lots of ways to use it. So much you can do with this. Oh my goodness. So let's clear this one out. Let's go back into photo stitch one, because this is a really good example here, is that beagle. And that's called dog. Imagine that. Dog two, actually, I think. So three. There we go. Three. As a little boy, I grew up with a dog that looked just like this beagle. We had beagles when I was growing up, and his name was Pal. He was my pal, so we named him Pal. And he was a shadow. He was very protective of me. Love my little beagle. My dad always had beagles because he liked to do rabbit hunting. They were trained rabbit dogs, so that's what he used them for. I never cut into that myself. Anywho, so here's the beagle dog, and this is just a really good example of how awesome and realistic a stitch out can be. So we're going to click on next. I'm going to fit it to the page so we can see it. I'm going to hit next again. Check out that image. I want you all to do this after class is over the next few days or whatever. Play with some of these images inside a palette. And one of the biggest keys to making the images render faster, you don't have to have a huge file size. Like some of our phones will take a photograph that's like a million, that's like over 900K. As excuse me, as far as the file size of the photograph, the smaller the file size of the photograph, the better it will work in palette. So if you're trying to do some photographs and it just doesn't seem like it's going to work because it takes a long time for it to do everything, reduce the size of your photo file and it will work better. That's the best advice I can give you for that. But here's a good example of changing the amount of thread colors. So it's default set at 10. So if we go up to 15 on this one and do the update preview, it added some more colors right in here. I saw that. That this is a much more realistic photo compared to the original than the one set at 10. What this does is here, this button select from candidates. If we click on that, what it does, it gives you a grid work of 9 images. Where the settings are right now is this center image. And then you can look at the surrounding ones. These make it lighter. It just adds different contrast and color intensity. So this is a way you could pick out from this. Here's where we're at now. I personally like how this one here looks. So I'm just going to click on that. This will work with any image. Click on OK. And that looks pretty darn good to me. So I'm going to hit finish. And it's working on it. How many stitches is this one? Oh boy, howdy. So this one would take a little while to stitch out. This one is actually 101,827 stitches. Now, one thing is though, we didn't do a mask clip on that, so it has all that background stuff. So that would reduce quite a bit, okay? But as you can see over here, each color change has its own little window over here. So when you add a color, it adds another layer of a different color of thread to make it more photorealistic, is the point I'm trying to make with this. So of course, to get rid of this, it's much easier to do the clipping mask than it is. It's quicker to do the clipping mask, but you can do it either way. So to get rid of this without using the mask, click on the gray area, and I'm going to select all. I'm just going to draw a box, drag a box around what I want to select. Then I'm going to go to stitches and divide by color. And when it's finished, I'm going to click in outside of my design window right here in the gray area. That deselects everything. I'm going to come over here to number one. That's what I want to get rid of, and I'm going to double click on it. Wait for the hourglass to go away. That means it's working on it. And now all I have selected here is this background image that I really don't want. So I'm going to bring my cursor over here to my design window. I have my four-way arrows. I'm going to right click and select cut. We're going to wait. And now all I have left is my Beagle dog.